It was back in 2001, I think it was the first one that I ever made. We made it with my mate Steve, who I go to the match with. And basically that one was, there wasn't an awful lot of thought went into it. It was just scrawled on a red bed sheet with a load of white paint. But it was something that I'd always, ever since I'd gone to my first game, which was in '97, it fascinated me, the flags on the Kop, and I'd always had an interest in it. And then I decided a few years later, it was in the build up to the Istanbul final in 2005, that I wanted to make a better one, a more permanent one. And so it was then that I made my Our Lads Have Come From All Over the Place banner, which the lyrics from the Anfield rap. And that one I took a bit more seriously, and I'd researched my method, I found out how I was going to do it and all that. But it was only just a hobby at that stage. And then 2 years later, before the Athens final, I made a Campione banner as well with like Greek Cyrillic fonts. I don't like my flags to look the same, so I look for a way to get a different visual on each one that I do. It was a long time then until I made another. 2019, the final then, I decided I was going to start work on something a bit special. And this was a time when in my life I've been having a lot of problems. A couple of things happened in my personal life. We had lost a baby, me and my wife. So that was a really difficult time for me, and I was struggling with my mental health as a result of that. And also around about the same time, my physical health started to deteriorate because I had 3 herniated discs in my back, and they were causing me constant pain, like day and night. I couldn't sleep. And then there was one day that I went into work and things were getting so on top of me that what would normally be something that I could cope with quite normally seemed like an insurmountable mountain. I must have been wearing this on my face, and somebody said to me, "Are you all right, Mark?" And then I just broke down.
So going back, I was 6 years old, a new family moved next door, and one day on the playground looked around, and there was this lad, Mark, and basically became my best mate. 37 years later, we're still together, hang out together, go to the match together, and married sisters, so see him all the time no matter what we're doing. I think COVID affected everyone, but with everything else that's gone on in Mark's life, it's really affected him. And to have that avenue and that just something to put your time into, take all those stresses and those worries away, and put your soul into it really, and then to have that finished product at the end that gives you that sense of achievement and accomplishment has been superb for him, and it's just amazing to sort of have your mate back.
It was in a conversation with a counsellor that my banners started to come back up. We were trying to find coping mechanisms, ways that I could use my mind, like distract my mind and get myself doing things. Previous to my injury, that had been running. I used to run for an hour a day, but that had been taken away from me. Around about the same time, the match had been taken away from me as well because of COVID. And that was another big way that I got to let off a lot of steam. It was in a conversation with this counsellor. He said, "Is there anything else that you've ever done that kind of allows you to decompress in that way?" And it was then that my banners occurred to me again. I went away and I made the World Beaters one at that point. Obviously, the font you might recognise as being the Beatles font. So that obviously has the link to the city and to the music scene. This was made at the time when we just won the Club World Championship, so obviously I incorporated the badge of honour that they got to wear on the shirts. But you might notice that this one's looking a bit tatty. It's got a few war wounds on it, and it's been sun bleached during the COVID lockdown. Peter Carney invited me to contribute to his display of banners on the Kop, and this was one of the ones that he used, and it was that was a real honour for me at a time when nobody could go to the game. It was great that a little part of me was still there, and that made me feel fantastic really. And seeing it on the telly, I've got some great pictures that I took of the telly with Jurgen Klopp and my banner just behind him. Yeah, it's magic, and it was there. You could see it on the night of the trophy lift and everything like that. So you know, none of us could be there, but a little bit of me was there, so that was special. That was kind of the start of me making them more regularly, but it's a bit of an expensive hobby. This is the problem that I had. Like, the materials for each banner cost me maybe £100 because I use the best materials I can get. You know, use really heavyweight cotton drill for the background and wool felt for the design. So they are really quite expensive to produce, and then I've got to pay the lady who does me sewing afterwards as well. So I decided if this is gonna be what I'm gonna use to help myself to get better, then I'm gonna need some help. I'm gonna have to find a way of making my hobby pay for itself. So I kind of put myself out there a little bit on Instagram and on Twitter, and just to see if there was anybody interested in commissioning my work. And I showed what I'd done before, and that's where it all really just took off.
I've been a really awkward customer for him, right? Because I've had a number of senior marketing jobs. So I'm used to people coming to me and sitting down and going, what does this look like? What's this design look like? How would you do this? And I'd go, oh, tweak that, do this, do that. And they must have hated me for it. I was a perfectionist. So I said that to Mark at the time. And when he showed me the designs, I literally didn't have anything to change at all. It was absolutely spot on, first attempt. You got to remember, right, getting a banner made is like getting a tattoo done. You've got to think long and hard about it, and you've got to get it right. And you know, once you've done it and you've got it right, there's that relief that you nailed it. The first theme was my love of Adidas, right? I've got, for my sins, 126 pairs of trainers in the collection, I know. And most of them are Adidas. All of our Adidas kits were superb. So we wanted some Adidas angles in there if we could. The second theme was I wanted to kind of record that fantastic 2-year spell we had from 2019 to 2020 where we won those 4 trophies. And then the third one was I wanted a song from this city that meant something. So that, a small belief can mean you'll never walk alone, means an awful lot to me. The song means a lot. The story of the song means a lot. So that kind of package combined, that was the brief to Mark. And let's be honest, right, I'm not the main man here, Mark is. He's a genius.
Yeah, so my dad's 83. He's been following Liverpool since... Start again. So my dad's 83. He's been following Liverpool since our second division days. Back in the late 40s, he first started going the match. Followed us home and away in the second division, right through the glory years of the 70s and 80s. Mid-90s, he ran a small building company, had a little bit of financial troubles, had to give his season ticket up. And to keep going the game, he became a turnstile guy. Most turnstile guys used to have to do the turnstiles and then go home. My dad had a little scam going where he'd do the turnstiles, he'd cash up, then he'd go to the toilet and come out the other entrance and run up and sit with me and all my mates. We'd all shove up, so there'd be 7 of us on 6 seats. When the new stand was built, he became a steward and was positioned on the top floor, and he became a bit of a legend. He's I think everyone you speak to says he always greeted everyone with a smile, a hello, score prediction. And I remember after the Barcelona game, me and my 2 lads were in the main stand and went down to see him. We were hugging and celebrating and the whole thing. And I stood back, and the amount of people that were just going up and hugging him, and it was like a long lost friend. So I just done a little bit of videoing of it and put it on Facebook. Next thing I had the Echo, had Liverpool LFC TV and different things coming. He's now stars in the We Are Liverpool, This Means More. He was on the Instagram page of Liverpool FC. And yeah, he just became a bit of a mini star. He's had Parkinson's for about 6 or 7 years, and lockdown hasn't been very kind to him, to be honest. When we all started going back to match, he took a decision to retire. The amount of tributes that's been paid to him since, Mark with his flag, was just unbelievable. The club done things for him, stewards put things on for him. He's been overwhelmed by the response to his retirement. I sit opposite, so I sit in the Kenny Dalglish stand and I can see it every game. So there is that little thing that, you know, my dad's still there. He'll always be there. In 10, 20 years, I'll be going the match still. My dad will still be there with me. So it's brilliant to see, and you know, what Mark's done for him, and we as a family will always be eternally grateful for him.
I had this idea in my head. I wanted to make a banner that looked like an old shirt, and that was the era that I grew up watching Liverpool in. My first Liverpool shirt was that shirt, 1986 to 88 kind of era. And my favourite ever player was John Barnes. And when I look at that shirt, I think of John Barnes. So yeah, that was my inspiration really for that one, was to just pay tribute to that title-winning team and to our new title-winning team, and kind of to draw a link between the two. It was actually that one kind of was in a kind of back to front inspiration. I was just on the website of the people who supply my fabrics, and I just saw that silver fabric was there, and I thought that'd work brilliant to give the vibe of those old silver away kits from the 80s. So yeah, that one was kind of back to front inspiration. And that was one of my biggest challenges so far to do that. That was a guy from New Jersey who got in touch, and he wanted to make a birthday gift for his son. And his son's favourite player is Trent. So he wanted something Trent themed, and that was all he came with. He wanted something to do with Trent. He said maybe his shirt on the banner or something like that. I just came up with a bit more of a detailed idea, and I hoped that he'd go with it. Obviously it was going to be a lot of work to do that one. I think it ended up being about 25-30 hours of work altogether went into making that flag. And so obviously the price goes up and up. And so when you're pitching these ideas to people, you just hope that they're going to be willing to go for it. And he did. So yeah, he was made up with it. And I think, if I remember rightly, to make up the figure of Trent, there was about 150 individual pieces of fabric that I had to cut out and put together to build that picture up.
The process takes hundreds of hours the actual initial design, and then hundreds of hours of cutting, stitching. Occasionally might get a few moans off the missus, I think. They've got a beautiful baby girl now, Anna. So the ironing of banners, the cutting, the stitching, it takes time. Might have caused a few domestic incidents in its time, but you can just see the quality afterwards, and I think it's just something that the family in general behold. And I think, my Christmas present last year was a banner, and I haven't quite come up with a design yet, but it will be coming soon. Yeah, unfortunately with his back, and at the moment this operation has been a success, I do a bit of the carrying the banners around and putting them up. So yeah, up ladders and tying them around, and it's amazing. Never had any sort of naval training, but I seem to have a lot of knot ability at the moment and tying things. But yeah, it's I help in whatever way I can, and it's just great to be a part of that community. Really, as his own little WhatsApp group now of everyone who's bought a banner off him is in that group, which has helped them through lockdown with their own mental health struggles. And yeah, an amazing community that we're all a part of, and I'm grateful to be a part of that.
Deus nobis haegotia fecit. I think I did begin it just before the final in 2019, but I wanted to get it finished in time for the start of the season, and it was a bit of a long-term project. Having made a few banners already at that point, I wanted to try and showcase my skills a little bit and show what I could do. It was one of the ideas that I'd had in my head for a while, was to make a really beautiful Liverpool banner. The visual that I had in my head is, when you see a trade union march through the city centre, and they had those beautiful old banners with all the tassels and gold fringing at the bottom and all of that, and I decided I wanted to do something like that. Deus nobis haegotia fecit, a God has granted us this leisure, and it's the motto of the city of Liverpool. So I decided I wanted to incorporate that, because in my day job I'm actually a Latin teacher, teach Latin and French. So it was something that obviously had a personal meaning to me. And I thought that the old city coat of arms with the two liver birds and Neptune and the Triton either side would just fit it perfect. And that was actually that crest. In some ways you could say it was Liverpool Football Club's first crest, because it appeared on the medals that they received when they won the 1901 championship. So yeah, that one was a special one to me, and I was so proud of it when I'd finished it and had all those bells and whistles and all those tassels and stuff. It just looked $1 million. When I started taking the commissions for the banners, I built a website, which was a new skill for me, and it was just wanted a way that I could share my work with the public. And while I was doing that, I was thinking, what do I want this website to look like? So I was uploading pictures of the process of how I was making the banners, and I was kind of giving a bit of a spiel about what had inspired each one. And then one of my customers actually said, you should put all these in a book, you know, it'd probably be really popular. And I kind of, from that point on, it was an idea that I had in the back of my head. My back problems kind of got worse again, and I had to take more time off work. And so I was kind of sat at home with not a lot to do at that time. So I was just basically lying in bed with my laptop, and I decided that that was going to be the opportunity I was going to take to put some of my ideas down on paper. Thankfully, I'd been forward thinking enough to take lots of photos of all my work as I was going. So I had plenty of visual stuff, and it was just a matter of putting together the wording.
So I've got a season ticket in the main stand, and it's always a little job during You'll Never Walk Alone, or when the teams are coming out in the Champions League and seeing which banners are there today. A number of them usually see at least one or two every single game, and you can just see the pride in his face when that happens, and you get the tingling feeling of You'll Never Walk Alone as well. And then to see all those hundreds of hours that he's put in, it's amazing.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's a fantastic feeling, and it's you know, it's been a real boost to me, self-esteem and everything. You know, I think really anybody who's producing any kind of artwork or whatever it might be, just getting a bit of feedback and people telling you what they think of it and getting positive feedback, it's a fantastic feeling. But the biggest boost for me has been since we've been back at the game and seeing my flags just popping up around the ground. I think it's such a unique part of Liverpool fan culture. I mean, other teams have flags, but they're often like just a St. George's cross with the name of the town written down the middle of it. But for Liverpool, it's something different. It's like it's a part of your identity, and as a club, it's just another outward way of expressing your support for the team. I hate the word fan. I hate that word because I think it devalues you, and I think it's been designed to devalue you and make you into a customer rather than what we are, which is supporters. And I think support is an active thing. It's not a passive thing that you just sit there and watch it. It's an active thing. Yeah, it's just kind of, it's part of our community, and it's part of our history. It's kind of nice to feel like I'm creating a little bit of that history and carrying that story along. And I like the fact that, yes, you can go and get a printed banner made, and you can probably do it quite cheaply and have it made in a couple of days. But I like using the old traditional kind of methods, doing everything by hand and just making beautiful things that hopefully nobody will ever want to throw away. I like the idea that some of my flags, because they're so well made and because they're such heavy duty material and stuff, that people have passed them down through their families, and they might still be there on the cop in 100 years. Yeah, it's a labour of love.